Hey, what's up, guys? We're back with Two Nerds Sportscast, and we've got a guest with us today. I'm Lee,
And I'm Joel.
and our guest is Don. Say hi, Don.
What's up, guys?
So yeah, we are, as you can kind of see, Don has a Bills shirt on, so we will be talking about the AFC East today. And yeah, let's jump into it with the Bills. I mean, might as well talk about them first, right?
Yep, fired up to talk about the Bills and all the AFC East.
Hell yeah. Do you have any general thoughts on the offseason?
Well, I was just saying before, it's shocking, but it's a little bit unspectacular, I would say. The Bills. If you'd ask any Bills fan, I think they would put the odds at slim to none that they'd bring back almost all their starters. I think they're returning 10 of 11 starters on offense and 11 out of 11 defensively. But to bring back John Feliciano, the starting right guard, bring back Matt Milano on defense. It just we didn't think that was going to be possible. Darrell Williams at right tackle. With the limited cap this offseason, we none of us thought that was going to be a possibility. So the fact that Brandon Beane in the front office got that done was pretty spectacular in all of our eyes, in my eyes specifically.
No, yeah, I mean, Bean did a very good job in keeping this team together, and personally, I think he did a pretty good job with the offseason in general. I mean, like you said, I know y'all didn't do too many splashy things, but I liked y'all's draft as well. Like I thought it was good.
Yep, yep. Bringing in back-to-back defensive ends there in the draft was again shocking, but it was definitely a position in need. You watch that Super Bowl compared to the AFC title game where the Chiefs handed it to us. It was definitely apparent that they needed to get after the quarterback, and they did so, attacking that need with both of the first and second round picks.
And I liked both of the dudes, Rousseau and Basham. Uh,
Yep,
I I honestly personally really wanted the Ravens to pick Basham, also because I liked his nickname in college, Boogie Basham. I know
yep,
Joel will talk about that all day. He loves that nickname so much,
Oh yeah.
and it is
Oh,
a
yep,
I
great
wanted
nickname.
I
yep,
wanted Boogie so bad for the
And he
Cowboys, so
wanted
bad.
Boogie too.
Just
yeah.
just so you know, I don't think we haven't talked about this yet, but I was not a huge fan of the Dallas draft. I kind of went on it in on it last week. I was mad that Boogie was not the selection.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But two different players, two different players. They, play the same position. Both offer some versatility to kick inside.
Mhm.
We got Boogie and Groot. They call Gregory Rousseau.
Oh
I think
yeah,
that's because of his fade or how long he is. But you know, both seem like great prospects. Both really good character guys too, which has been a staple of what the Bills have kind of built their team around since the McDermott and Bean regime took over. Um, but we'll see. With all prospects, it's kind of a hit or miss thing, and you never know with these guys. But they got two really good dudes, it seems like, and two really good prospects.
most
Oh
definitely.
yeah. Um, for me, bringing back Matt Milano was the biggest win. I didn't see that as even being remotely possible. Brandon Beane killed it. I mean, there's a reason why he was executive of the year last year. Um, I mean, they got him back for a discount. You don't see that for a linebacker in his prime on the open market. I mean, I thought maybe they'd shoot for a franchise tag with him because I think he's a special player. But they also brought back people like Darrell Williams, John Feliciano, like you're talking about earlier. I like bringing back Levi Wallace. Levi Wallace is an excellent player. And then when you released John Brown, that was a little bit of an eye opener because he did play a pretty hefty role for you guys. But you replaced him with an equal player in Emmanuel Sanders. They're almost the same guy.
For sure.
Emmanuel Sanders is a little bit older, but it's the way it goes. I also, in an underrated move, when you guys brought in Mitch Trubisky for backup QB, I really liked that. Trubisky's gotten a bad rap to this point in his career. I don't think he's that bad. He was a first round quarterback for a reason. I mean, was he drafted higher than he should have been? Sure, but I mean, he's low risk. What are you guys paying him? Like 2 million or something like that to
Yep.
be
Yep.
backup?
Your
God
spot
forbid.
came in to rebuild his value a little bit and
Yeah.
get some of that coaching. Hopefully, take that Josh Allen type development train there with Brian Dayball, and maybe hit the free agent market next season when there's a little bit more certainty with the cap and maybe a few more quarterback needy teams and such. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Uh, you know, I think losing John Brown, none of us wanted to lose John Brown. Let's be clear about that. A year ago, before we got Diggs, he was our number one receiver, put up over 1,000 yards. Was a very a pleasant surprise. Like I don't think any Bills fan really thought that he would go for 1,000 yards back in 2019. But he was a big part of that playoff push there, and a big part in Josh Allen's development. To be quite honest. So we wish we could keep him, but they were hot after Emmanuel Sanders for a couple of years now. They tried to get him at the 2019 trade deadline. They couldn't work it out. He ended up going to the 49ers. So, we'll see. He's 36 years old, but in my opinion, I think he's a slight upgrade. I think you can do a little bit more with him, where Brown's more of a downfield guy. Sanders can kind of work the intermediate parts of the field a little bit more effectively. But John Brown's a heck of a football player. We'll miss him.
Yeah. No, most definitely. Like you were saying, John Brown was like really big for you guys in that 2019 season. But like you said, since y'all had been looking at Emmanuel Sanders for so long, I mean, there's a reason for it. So like I do think that he is a slight upgrade, and I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not excited to see these guys.
Yeah, for sure.
It's gonna be a tough game, like period.
Yeah, that the whole AFC there is gonna be loaded with young quarterbacks here, so and quality football teams. So I'm glad the Bills are finally in that conversation.
No, most definitely. Hey, I'm happy for you guys. I've been rooting for you guys since the Patriots dynasty. I've always wanted to see you guys beat the Patriots literally every year.
Thanks, man. But Joe, to touch back on your point, yeah, getting Milano back for I think it was 11 million a year or 10 million a year or something like that. We Bills fans, I was thinking more along the lines of 13 at the least, and probably more like 14 or 15 he would fetch on the open market. Mm-hmm. So maybe whether it was I was off in my projections or he took that discount, who knows? But yeah, I mean we're stoked. I think if you told any Bills fan we'd have all three of those starting guys back, and pretty much keep our whole coaching staff and whole front office intact. We ended up losing Dan Morgan a couple weeks ago to the Carolina Panthers. He got the vice VP general manager spot. Or assistant general manager spot. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you got a small promotion, but we pretty much kept the whole front office and coaching staff intact. And if you would have told us that back in December, nobody would have believed you. So,
well, no, back in December, I was still a Texans fan, and I wanted us to look at Brian Daboll. I was like, why aren't you looking at Brian Daboll? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Bringing back Daboll is like super underrated. I mean, he I don't know why he doesn't have a head coaching job. He's going to be gone next year. If he's not, it's going to be an enormous travesty if he's not for his career. Not for the Bills, though.
I thought he was a shoo-in for the Charger job. I thought to work with Herbert, Herbert Allen, similar style quarterbacks. I thought that was a perfect fit. From what I've heard, it's not like I have any inside sources or anything, but the Bills kept winning. They got to the AFC title game. The Chargers didn't want to wait around anymore, and they went with Staley, I believe his name is, from
Brandon Staley.
Yeah.
Coordinator. So I think it was just a little bit unlucky in a sense for Daboll in his career, but I'm sure he wants to get to that AFC title game and get that Super Bowl too. So it's just it's tough for those coaches that hang around in the playoffs to end up getting jobs. So that he was fell victim to circumstance, I think, this offseason.
Probably true. It's probably true.
Yeah, there were some very needy teams that needed head coaches, and so
yeah.
I think that's another reason why Bieniemy didn't get a job. But we're not talking about AFC East or West.
Yeah.
We are talking about the East.
Yeah.
But launching back into the draft to touch on that again, you guys bringing in Gregory Rousseau, who is my top defensive end this year. I think he has the highest upside of any of the edge rushing prospects, and managing to steal him at pick 30 was just incredible. I think it
Yep.
was a right move not trading up for Etienne because I heard some noise that they were thinking about doing that. Um, and then in second round, staying put again, letting Basham fall right into you guys' laps. And then third round, bringing in Spencer Brown, who will effectively replace the role of Ty Nishke to me,
Yep.
which was one of your very few losses, him and Brian Winters.
Yep. Well, yeah, Naseki, and you can't pay everybody, and he was making $7.5 million last year. And when you start to become a cap team, you have to have these second, third, fourth round pick on rookie deals come in and fill those voids, those bench voids. Allen's deals coming up. They're gonna have to find these guys like these Spencer Browns. They got Tommy Doyle in the fifth round. These reserve players for now, to come in on cheap deals and back up your Deion Dawkins, your Darrell Williams. So, I was, like I said before, the draft, it was a little shocking. But when you break it down in totality, I think that, they did an excellent job filling holes, filling needs, maybe not perceived by everybody, but within their own organization, they felt like these were needs that they filled.
I mean, I personally think that I think they did a very good job. I mean, saying killed it, I don't know per se, but they hit. I think they're going to hit on a lot of their draft picks, and in 3 years we might be saying the Bills killed this draft because they got such good value out of this draft.
For sure, for sure.
But I personally have a truz on the Bills offseason. I think they did a very good job. I almost want to say Alpha Truz just because I really do think that honestly I think the top three teams in the AFC next year are going to be the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, and I think it's going to be between those three teams on who goes to the
Good,
Super Bowl.
good bet, good bet.
Like they all upgraded. I don't think any of them even went sideways. I think they all upgraded, and it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be real
Yeah, it's
tough.
hard to three teams right now in the AFC. Me personally, I'll give them a shrug bordering on trust. I felt like they kind of maintained, added young pieces. I don't know how much they're going to be able to rely on those young pieces to give them immediate impacts as far as the Rousseaus. I think Basham might have a little bit more of an immediate impact than Rousseau. But I'm going to give them just because I felt like they maintained, which is awesome.
Yeah.
From where we went into the offseason with the cap, like we stated earlier, it was, there was a lot of uncertainty. And, for them to maintain, they didn't really make that splash move, which maybe they didn't need to. You could argue, did they get did they get better than the Chiefs? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see how these rookies pan out. But that's kind of why I got to where I got to with that. And I don't want to sound too much of a homer.
I'll be
It's
honest.
fair.
I was a pretty big homer on the Ravens. I mean, it's mostly because I was super stoked about the Bateman pick. That's one of my favorite things of this offseason.
Yeah.
But Joel, what about you?
I got Truz bordering on Alpha Truz for me. It's easily one of the most solid off seasons in the entire NFL this year. It's one of my favorite ones by far. I love the Rousseau pick. I love the Basham pick. And then like I said earlier, bringing in Trubisky is an extremely underrated move because bad things happen to quarterbacks all the time. Say Allen misses 4 games. There's not going to be a huge beat missed. I have confidence that Trubisky could come in and lead them to 3-1 or whatever. And
Or
the
even
Bills
two and
didn't
two would
need
be
to.
fine with 4 games.
Yeah,
Like
Oh, it wouldn't sink under Trubisky. Yeah, I agree.
yeah, and then for the Bills, they didn't need to do anything splashy. They were this close to being better than the Chiefs last year as it was. They probably should have gone. They just had a bad run of things when they came up against them in the playoffs. So, but next time around, who's to say that happens again? Allen should take another step forward in his development, and that may be all you need to push you over the top. So don't overpay for free agents that are going to come in and just cap strap you when Allen's contract's coming around the corner. Just trust in what you got, and that's what
For,
they did. And I'd love to see it.
for sure. Yeah. I wasn't hoping for anything, catastrophic. And the people ask, well, hey, did we get better than the Chiefs? Can we beat the Chiefs with what we did this offseason? And I think the easy answer is just play better on the day you play the Chiefs, right? I mean, sometimes the answer is in front of you,
Yeah.
and you don't have to go around the loop to find it. It's just play better the day you play the Chiefs, and they got they got a deep squad. There wasn't a whole lot of holes to fill. I would say the only thing that kept me back from being where you guys were is the defense kind of took a step back last year, and they didn't do a whole lot to help that out as far as the secondary goes. Levi Wallace, like you said, I like him. I think he's underrated, but he's limited athletically. I felt like they could have maybe added some more competition there with him. I just have some concerns about that CB2 spot that, when you go up against these upper echelon teams, these upper echelon passing teams, that maybe they'll get exposed there a little bit. They were horrible guarding tight ends last year. I don't know how much better that has gotten, but we'll see. You know what I mean? It's confidence in McDermott and Leslie Frazier to get it figured out. They had a top 5 unit the previous 2 years, so we'll see how it goes.
And I think Frazier is an excellent DC.
For sure. I mean, coach in the league for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, let's move on down to the Miami Dolphins. What are your thoughts on that one, Don?
Give me 1 second there.
You are perfectly fine, my man.
Well, first with the Dolphins, you kind of got to tip your hat to Chris Greer. He's turned Laramie Tunsil into 4 first-round draft picks, and that the key to catapult them these last 2 off seasons. I do have some questions about the Dolphins. Just in general, in my opinion, Flores totally botched the quarterback situation last year. I think that was just a total mismanagement. I like Flores. I think his teams have overachieved during his time in Miami, but I just, that quarterback, I'm a big Fitzpatrick guy. I know that might not be popular in circles, but, he had that team rolling. And, to kind of interchange these quarterbacks back and forth, it's just, we're not playing baseball here. It's not an interchangeable pitcher here. It's like, stick
it's
with
kind of the most important position in all of sports.
Exactly. It's like I just didn't understand that at the time when he did it. If Fitzpatrick blew up like Fitzpatrick can blow up, then I can understand pulling the cord and putting the young kid in.
But he was lights
Tua
out.
wasn't even ready.
Yeah,
Tua wasn't even ready.
If Tua was ready and he was lighting it up, whatever. How are you going to argue with that? They invested the 3rd overall pick in the guy that draft. So I understand the rush to get him in, but when you're in a playoff race like that and you have a guy coming off a major surgery, and it appears to everybody he's not ready, why are you going to do that to the guy? So I have some questions about Miami, but overall, you have to tip your hat to Chris Greer. I mean, to pull that trade off and end up getting 4 first-round picks out of it, and they've really reshaped their squad with these young players, and they've kind of had a pretty quick rebuild. Just a couple of years ago, we were talking about them tanking, being the worst team in the league, and now they're a born playoff team. So
well, getting 4 first for one player does that.
Yeah, for sure. But I do question, like, during their draft, for instance. They traded back from 3 to 12, and then traded back up to 6. They gave up a lot to do that. They gave up one of the first-round picks, so they're only down to 3. But they gave up one of the first-round picks, and they didn't know who was on the board. So I had big questions about that. It's like they gave up a lot of capital, just they added, it seemed like, to move up to 6. And I kind of felt like they thought that Chase would be on the board, and the Bengals went that direction instead of Sewell, and they kind of got left out in the cold. Now Waddle's a good player. I like Waddle, but we heard the same thing about Henry Ruggs last year. So let's see how things go with that before we start saying Waddle's going to be the next All Pro. We'll see. But in totality, I mean, I have like what they've done the last couple of years. I mean, Austin Jackson seems to be a quality tackle in the league, right? Pretty much right away, which nobody saw. Noah Igbanana, he solid slot corner. They got him at the end of the first round last year. Jalen Phillips, their second first round pick this year. He's got all the talent in the world. Kid could have been a top 5 talent. He was the number 1 high school recruit when he was coming out, when he was going into college. Injuries derailed him a little bit, but kid's got a lot of talent. So if he can stay healthy, they got something there at the edge. They had two more second round picks. Javon Holland, it can play either down in the box or deep center field. I mean, they have like 17 picks, so I'm going on and on here. But,
no, I mean they did have a lot of picks. I mean, because like you said, their GM was playing Madden. He was literally playing. And when I was doing my mock draft, I even like thought that they were gonna do more Madden things. I thought they were gonna be trading and doing all this stuff, getting like more picks, trading. Like the guy was just going all over the place. Like
between them and the Jets, the AFC East was picking every other pick. It seemed like
it was ridiculous.
But they got Liam Eichenberg, so they got those 2 bookend tackles now there. Eichenberg, I feel like his ceiling isn't super high, but I think he'll come in and play right away. So I do like what Miami's done. I don't think they've closed the gap between them and Buffalo. That's just my opinion, but and obviously a lot of that will depend on Tua, whether he comes in and he's healthy, he's taking that next step. So what are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, me personally, I actually really think Jacoby Brissett can win the job over Tua.
You're stealing my thoughts.
Really like Jacoby Brissett.
I just don't think they're going to let that happen. Though.
No, I'm saying he could. I'm not saying that it's going to happen because, and unfortunately, I think it won't happen because of Brian Flores. But I think like Brissett will see a game or two, and we will all know that he's the guy that should be starting. And
sure.
So I don't know. I have a lot of faith in Brissett just because, I mean, for one, his situation back in Indy, it's not like he failed. Like he did really good, minus the first season where he found out he was going to start in preseason. During the preseason games when Luck retired, they were like, "Oh, you're starting, by the way, Brissett." And he was like, "Oh, cool." Did not plan this for the entire offseason. But moving on from the quarterback stuff, I do think Jacoby Brissett can do it. But like you're saying, the Jalen Phillips, I absolutely love Jalen Phillips. Now, again, his concussions, that is the question. But the kid has talent. He can get after the quarterback. He can get around offensive linemen. He's got tricks up his bag. I mean, I was watching Brett Coleman talk about Jalen Phillips, and he was comparing him to the Watt brothers, and I kind of see it. Like, he's really good at getting around offensive linemen. If he can play, or if he can stay on the field, then I think it's going to be a very, very, very good pickup for the Dolphins. And even Javon Holland, I really like him too. I think a lot of people were sleeping on these safeties this season. Trevon Moehrig, almost undoubted first round talent, fell into the second round. Javon Holland, I mean, he didn't fall too far, I guess, but I mean, like, he didn't fall because he was the first one taken, but I mean, like, I still feel like people were undervaluing these safeties. You know what I mean? Like, it felt weird. But I really like Javon Holland. Now, Jalen Waddle is my biggest question mark personally for the Dolphins. Like, he can play, but, and I know this is an overused thing, but I feel like it's almost specifically with this past season for Alabama. They had, like, what, 12 or 11 of them go in the first round? Like,
sure felt like it, but like, not quite that many.
Like they had a lot go. I'll double check right now. They had a lot go in the first round, and it's just, to me, like, when you have a team that's that stacked in the college, obviously everyone's going to look better. Not saying any of them are going to be trash, but obviously they're all going to look better because they're
Yeah.
all better than the other team. Like like
Yeah.
as a whole, you know what I mean? So like it makes it easier to be flashy and be good and all of that kind of stuff. Um, but like I don't want to take too much away from Jalen Waddle because I do think he's going to be a good wide receiver. I just again like you said about all the hype with him. I don't I want to chill on all of that. And like with uh Waddle and Devontae Smith. Again, I like Devontae Smith as well, but sorry, I'm not talking about Alabama, I'm talking about Dolphins. But just it it seemed like their team was just way too stacked this season to not look at it and go, okay, like we need to evaluate these players on a player by player basis and see like what teams they struggled against, see what opponents they struggled against, and like really look into it. Because I think there was, I mean, obviously there was a couple of games where all of these guys didn't look that well, and you have to look at like who they were facing. Was that also a first round talent? You know, all that kind of stuff. But overall, I think the Dolphins did a good job. I mean, they definitely are going to be competitive this year. Um, I am. I mean, they're obviously going to be fighting for the second spot with the Patriots. I don't think they're going to be fighting the Bills for the top seed. So just for that, I mean, I have to go closer to shrug. I mean, I'd still trust, but like I still trust it. Like they're still going to do well. I still see them winning maybe 9, 10 games, being fringe playoff again. Um, but if the coaching doesn't, if Brian Flores does his wishy washy stuff again, then I think that could spell doom for the Dolphins this season. Most definitely. And one other thing I did want to talk about actually is the Fuller getting Fuller from the Texans. I do think that that was a very good grab for them because as a Texans fan previously, I I still like Houston. I am not against the Texans. I just can't root for them anymore because of what they've done. Um, but Fuller is a very good wide receiver. He's very, very good. I think he's very underrated by a lot of people. And I think that's going to be a very good pickup. I mean, I know that he can't play the first game because of the suspended for the PEDs, but like, okay, cool. He doesn't play the first game. I don't even know who they're playing, but he's going to be there the rest of the season.
My question with that is can Tua push the ball downfield on a frequent enough basis to fully utilize Fuller like Deshaun Watson did?
No,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, no. The big question mark to me is the Tua, which is why I'm like on shrug ish. Like I'm like I want to say trust because I think they're going to be competitive, but I also want to say shrug because like that like I just said like having a quarterback like back and forth, or even if they just stick with Tua, but he's not good, that could literally spell doom for the Dolphins, and they could have a losing season easily at that point. Like,
I agree.
But for me, so I'll do my whole thoughts now. So they started off this offseason with a couple minor moves. After last season being huge hitters in the offseason, they were more quiet this season. Cutting Kyle Van Noy, and he went back to the Patriots. Patriots kind of bamboozled the Dolphins there. They got to let him leave for a season, and they're going to get a third round pick for him. But that's neither here nor there. Uh, then they traded Shaq Lawson for Bednarik McKinney, which was an excellent scheme move on defense. I liked that a lot. Uh, and then bringing in an underrated player in Justin Coleman, that makes their defense as a whole better. They have top five potential on defense to me. Brian Flores, that's his whole shtick, and their defense is what's going to make them good. I'll just say it now. I have zero faith in Tua at all. I hated him last year when he went into the draft. I still don't think he's going to be a quality quarterback. I think he's going to be out very shortly. But so I think Jacoby Brissett does have a chance of taking the job because Tua is injury prone. So if Jacoby Brissett can just go out there for 2 games and just show what he's worth, if Brian Flores pulls, him and puts Tua back in the lineup and he's awful, there's going to be calls for Flores' head, and he's going to have to put Jacoby Brissett back out there, which will be for the better of the Miami organization. Because if they have a good QB, they are in the same conversation as the Bills. But without that good QB, they're nowhere close to even sniffing what the Bills have. Um, and then bringing in Will Fuller, I think they overpaid him. Will Fuller is a good receiver. I mean, that was their big move of this offseason. They had a decent amount of play money, and then they just threw it at him because they needed a wide receiver. And then they went in the draft and got another guy with Jalen Waddle. Yeah, you got two guys that go fast. That's what that is to me. Tua doesn't even have a big arm. So they're building a wide receiver core for a quarterback that they don't even have. He doesn't fit his game. So not a fan of the Jalen Waddle pick. He reminds me a lot of Henry Ruggs. That was my comparison for him. It's a Henry Ruggs John Ross situation. He's gonna, in 2 years they're gonna be regretting not picking the better Alabama receiver in Devonta Smith or just going another direction. And then later in the first round, they do make a good pick with Jalen Phillips. I mean, obviously the injury concerns are there. I am very concerned about his concussions as a guy who suffered from concussions, and that hurt my career. So hopefully he pans out for them. Hopefully not. I mean, we could be 3 years from now and they could be regretting every single one of these picks, or they could have home run and hit them all. That's the kind of the draft that it feels like to me. Javon Holland, loved that pick. That'll help them a lot. Liam Eichenberg, also an excellent player. I mean, you don't have to do that if you pick Penei Sewell like you should have in the first round instead of Jalen Waddle, but neither here nor there. Third round, I liked their pick of Hunter Long. He will help Tua. He's finally the first player they got that I think will actually help Tua and be a safety net for him. And then, so for my grade of their offseason, it's sus. That's simply what it is. And I don't have faith in their future with Tua if they really keep running it back with him. Why was Justin Herbert not the pick last year? Why? Imagine the Dolphins team with Justin Herbert sitting there at the helm right now. What are they at that point?
They're right up there with the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens. I think
No,
you have to that conversation. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that with what we seen Herbert do this past season. For me, I'm going to give them a trust just because I think it's kind of hard to screw up four draft picks in the top 2 rounds. I do have questions about them, like I stated earlier. Hunter Long, it's very curious to me what they're going to do with him because they already have Mike Gesicki.
That's
are
true.
there a lot of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends on the field because they didn't do that last year? They have Devontae Parker there. They have Waddle. They brought in Will Fuller. So I just don't know what their plan is offensively. And that's not a bad thing. I just don't. It's very curious to me. So we'll see. But I just think having those draft picks, building that solid young foundation, they might not have the quarterback, but if Tua is not the guy, they've built it up enough where they can go get another guy maybe next year or the year after that. And, they'll have a foundation for the guy. But I'm going to go solid, good with the Truz and stick with that.
Yeah. Right. The moves on offense really do feel counterintuitive to each other, bringing in all these fast guys and then having 2 quality tight ends. What are you running 3 wide receivers or are you running 2 tight ends? Which one are you doing here?
All those guys out in the field at the same time.
Yeah, I know.
Like, what do you do? It's just very curious to me what they're doing with that.
Yeah.
100%. And I do just want to correct real quick. I counted 6 Alabama players in the first round, but then there was quite a few in the second. So, it was just in the first 2 rounds, there was just so many of them.
Yeah.
But moving on to the Patriots, what did you think about the Patriots, Don?
Well, they spent a lot of money.
Yeah, they did.
They went and they got Jonnu Smith, gave him a ton of money. I think he has got more guaranteed money than Travis Kelce now, which is absolutely wild to me. They went and got Hunter Henry, so they're going to go the old Patriot way when they had, Gronk and Hernandez.
Except they're overpaying both the tight ends instead of having...
Yeah, but they're paying those guys a ton of money. And I just don't know, they haven't drafted well, over really in a long time. And that was always kind of covered up by Brady. And, now they're not getting that Brady discount to come play for guys to come. They're actually having to pay people now to get guys to go to New England. So I definitely think they got better. I don't think there's too much of an argument there. I mean, they were one of the most talent void teams going into last year. Other than maybe their offensive line they had with Thuney, and now he's gone. They just were void talent at all, pretty much every level of their defense. They got hit. A lot of guys opted out from COVID, I believe, on their defense. So their defense should take a step forward. I know they brought in Matt Judon, solid football player from Baltimore. But they paid these guys a lot of money. And, it's kind of that thing of, can you build a team through free agency? I think you can, but you have to be calculated. And I don't know how calculated they were. I think they kind of threw out that money like it was nothing. And they just kind of got anxious. And I think Belichick knows that it's getting down towards the end of his career. And, he wants to see if he can put something together there. But obviously there's the big thing with the quarterback. They take the quarterback at 15. You touched on it earlier. I mean, he was throwing to 6 college football Hall of Famers. So I mean, it's just I have questions. I have questions a lot about it.
And having the best offensive line in college.
Yeah, I mean, Mac Jones, he's void of a ton of he doesn't have a ton of athleticism. He doesn't have a huge arm. He's not very athletically gifted, and he's a great processor. Which people are going to scream Tom Brady. Tom Brady was 1 in a million. So good luck hitting those odds again.
That was taken in the 6th round.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't see it there. I do love the Christian Barmore pick in round 2. I think that kid's got a lot of talent. Needs to put it all together, and I think if anybody can do that, it's there in New England. But I question the money. I mean, given Nelson Aguilar 2 years, $24 million, had a good season last year. Don't get me wrong. They just Davin Godchuk. There was a defensive tackle, 2 years, $15 million. I didn't even hardly know who he was before we went into this offseason. Judon, good football player. I think the Ravens do a lot to scheme up their edge rushers to get pressure on the quarterback. So we'll see. But 4 years, 56 there. It just, you start adding it up. These things can come back to bite you quick, and we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, when I was talking about the Ravens, I did say, I was like, while I loved Judon, I'm not sad to see him go for that much money, because I'm happy we did not pay him that much money, because that would have been. I don't, because the Patriots are obviously not looking to the future. They're looking for right here, right now.
Yeah, and they don't have the quarterback situation to do that though either. I mean, say what you would about Cam, but I mean, the guy couldn't hit a 5-yard pass last year towards the end of the year. So, I just don't know what they're doing. It's kind of another one of those head scratchers. Tear it down, rebuild, or go for it. But if you go for it, you got to have the quarterback in place, and I don't think they have that. So for me, I will give them a sus. I just think throwing money out like that is a little wild, especially where they're at as a franchise. I just didn't think they were in position. I know they had the money. Doesn't mean you spend it like that. I'm not sure how all the pieces fit there. I do think they got better, so it's hard to argue that, like I said. But all in all, I don't know if it's all going to come together for them.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, actually. Like you were talking about them spending so much money this offseason, I might be stealing this topic away from Joel, because I know Joel has talked about this with me. But the other team that spent about that much, or actually spent more, I think, were the Jaguars back in 2017, 2018, one of those off seasons. Yep. And the next season they got to the AFC Championship game, and then now they went 1-15 last season. Like, it is not a tactic to do for the long term. And that's where my sus comes in as well for the Patriots, is that they're obviously not building for the long term, and like you said, they don't even have the quarterback situation situated. Like, you're debating between Mac Jones and Cam Newton. So here's the other reason why I don't like the Mac Jones pick. It's because with spending all of that money, they spent all that money on an offense that is geared towards a quarterback like Cam Newton, not like Mac Jones. If they moved up and got Justin Fields like what everyone was saying that they were going to do, then I would be all like, oh, holy. I would be all like, this is crazy. Bill Belichick knows what he's doing. He's a madman. But no, they didn't do that. They waited and they got Mac Jones. Like, I'm sorry, but like that offense with the pieces that they have, like the weapons and all of that, they are built for a mobile and option play quarterback, not Mac Jones, the pocket game manager. Like, it feels like they went two separate ways with the draft and their free agency. And that's where, for me, I'm gonna say sus because of that. And honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of Christian Barmore. I think he can play, but I think he has to put it all together. And I don't know. I question how long it's going to take for him to put it all together. And it's kind of the same thing with Ronnie Perkins, in my opinion.
With Barmore, it's what was a little puzzling to me was like, why did it take so long for him to put it all together? His last 3 or 4 games, I think he had 5 or 6 sacks, and previously before that, it's like he has 1 or 2. And it's like if Nick Saban can't get it out of you, is Bill Belichick going to get it out of you? I like his athleticism. I think he's got the profile to be a very good player. Yes. But I agree. It's suspect.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why it's sus to me, is because it's like I have to see where this goes, and I'm not in a like, oh, I don't know. I am leaning towards I don't like this. So yeah, like I think it was sus. I didn't like a lot of things they did. I mean, one thing I really thought they were going to do was also trade Stephon Gilmore to trade up and get Justin Fields, or maybe they traded up, like give Stephon Gilmore to the Broncos and get Patrick Surtain or whatever. Like I just feel like that they needed to do something like that in this draft, and they just didn't. They just sat where they were and just let things fall to them and had a mediocre draft like they have been having.
I was praying they didn't get Justin Fields.
I'm sure you were.
Or that night, I was just, please don't let him fall down to the Patriots. And Chicago made the move. They were the aggressive one, and hopefully they get rewarded for it.
No, yeah, and I think I tweeted out that day or something like that, something along the lines of, I swear if the league allows the Patriots to move up and get Justin Fields, I might lose it. Because I'm like, how I already kind of lost it that he fell to pick 11, but like if the Patriots went up and grabbed him at pick 11, I would have been even more like, how are you letting them do this? You're letting them get away with larceny.
Yeah,
but
they made Brady to Justin Fields, who everybody thought would be the number 2 quarterback, in the draft. So I was praying it wasn't going to happen. Luckily, it didn't.
But what about you, Joel? We both got a sus on it.
Yeah, no. New England kicked off the offseason with massive bang. They were super aggressive, which is the exact opposite of what they did to the draft, which is just puzzling. But so they started off trading for Trent Brown. I liked that move. That was a good move. They stole Trent Brown for a 5th-round pick. Amazing. Then they go out. They sign Matt Judon. Way too much freaking money. Way too much money for a average quality edge rusher to me. He's not significantly above average, even if at all, like you were talking about earlier. He was schemed to be good. And he was good 2 years ago, and then last year we saw a regression, which is part of why the Ravens didn't even make a real pursuit to bring him back. He wasn't worth the franchise tag they gave him. And then handing Jonnu Smith a bunch of money. I was happy when they signed Jonnu Smith. I think Jonnu Smith's a great tight end. And then they went out and gave Hunter Henry almost the same amount of money, who's not a good tight end to me. Like, not that he's not good, but he's average and inconsistent. So
he's not worth that money.
No, not anywhere close. Maybe 6 to 7, maybe, but not for the Patriots once you've already invested that much in Jonnu Smith. and I hate to break it to you, Belichick, but they're no Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez.
No, dude,
They're
dude,
neither
no,
one of
no,
them
no.
are anywhere close to the quality of those two players.
No.
So and then they went in, brought in Jalen Mills for a good bit of money for a below average defensive back. Gave Nelson Aguilar crap ton of money. I don't think he's a good receiver. I think last year was a fluke. I think what we saw with him with the Eagles was more of the player you're going to be getting now that you've given him a massive contract. Because he was on a prove it deal. Yes, he proved it with the Raiders that he deserves to be in the NFL. Did he prove that he deserves money? No. Uh, so then bringing in Kendrick Bourne, who's just an average slot receiver from the 49ers. The 49ers do this with wide receivers all the time. They just have a bunch of speedy, fast guys that they scheme well because Shanahan's a good coach, and then they go elsewhere and do nothing. We see it with Marquise Goodwin. We've seen it many, 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 many times. Then bringing in Henry Anderson from the Jets, bringing back Kyle Van Noy. I did like those two moves, so I do think they gave Henry Anderson too much money. Then re-signing Cam Newton for quite a bit of money, considering he proved nothing last year. He was the reason why they weren't good at the end of the year. He just collapsed after the first 8, 9 games. I don't think he's the right guy to develop Mac Jones. Cam Newton has shown no reason why he's going to develop any quarterbacks. I mean, he had several quarterbacks sitting behind him with the Panthers, and he didn't develop them at all. I mean, Kyle Allen came in and was supposed to be the future, and he turned out to be a big nothing. Uh, then they also brought back Dietrich Wise, which I like. Dietrich Wise is a good player. Brought back James White. Got to bring back him. He's a legend. You got to bring him back. They did let Marcus Cannon and Joe Thuney go, and they lost Pat Chung to retirement. Those are some harsh losses there. And then going into the draft, they sit there on draft night. I really did think they were going to trade up. I don't. That was the whole vibe I was getting from Belichick, that he was desperate, and then he decided to do more the Belichick way, which is what he should have been doing during free agency, is doing the Belichick way. And you're just going to sit there and let the worst quarterback fall to you. That doesn't solve anything for what you built. And then snagging Christian Barmore in the second round by trading up for him, so they get aggressive in the second round. I didn't really like the move. I don't think Barmore is that great. I have a lot of sus on him too. But then you get to the third round. I did like the Ronnie Perkins pick, for the record. So it's a lot of up and down for me with the Patriots, but mostly down. And the moves that were down were really, really, really freaking bad, in my
Yes.
opinion. So I have a Omega sus on it.
Oh, wow.
I hate the offseason for them. I think they're not going to be good next year. I don't see it, and I think they're long room. They're going to implode, and Belichick's going to have to slink into retirement here shortly, and it's going to be a sad end to the greatest coach in NFL history.
And then there will be those talks of, was it Brady?
Yeah, and then now because he goes from being basically undisputed GOAT above Lombardi and Landry to how good was he really? And we'll never know, and I hate it.
Well, there's a lot of questions about Belichick coming into New England now too. Like, he wasn't always this great coach.
No, he
I mean,
wasn't.
he did have Cleveland in the right direction before Art Rooney decided to move around. But it's not like Belichick was this revered coach. He was a revered defensive coordinator. He was not some head coach guru when he got the Patriot job. So then he gets Brady, and the rest is history. So you can kind of decide for yourselves. I think it takes two to tango. But it was the greatest match in NFL history, having Brady and Belichick together. Let's just put it that way. That's how I'll look at it. That's how I'll always look at it. I think one isn't as great as the other without having each other, if that makes sense. So I don't think Brady would have been as good as he was without Belichick, and I don't think Belichick wouldn't have been nearly as good as what he was as a head coach without Brady. Maybe they win Super Bowls apart. I'm not saying they don't, but I think to have that run, it took both of them, and that's just how I'll forever look at it.
No, and I completely agree with that. I've always been under the idea and the thought of it was Brady and Belichick. For me, seeing Brady go to another team and just immediately instill his stuff into another team, and if he is able to win another Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, if he wins one more Super Bowl, like even right now, I am now I'm no longer thinking Bill Belichick as being the top. He is in the top three, but
Oh yeah,
like with Brady being so successful on his own, you do kind of have to go, ooh, maybe he's not the undisputed top.
it brings it into question for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you had the where 2-3 years ago you would have been looked at funny if you would have even questioned a Belichick. But I mean, at least as a general manager, I don't think he's been very good. Let's put it that way. He's been bailed out, with having Brady and being able to sign these veterans to minimal contracts. And he went on the radio last year and said, "Oh well, we were in cap problems. You put him there." You know what I mean? So I mean, you don't have anyone to blame but yourself. So I mean, you don't blame a general manager. You are the general manager there. So.
I mean, that's why I don't like head coaches being general managers. I know Bill Belichick has done it and he's been doing it, but I just don't like it.
He doesn't draft well.
It's
I mean, you just look at that.
Yeah.
He hit one draft pick in Tom Brady, and the rest of them, not fans of him.
But let's move on to the New York Jets. Now, I liked their offseason. What do you think about it, Don?
I'm actually I'm a big fan of Joe Douglas. I think that the last 2 years he's done a fantastic job executing his draft plan, and I think that I have a hard time giving draft grades right after the draft, but he gets value in my opinion.
Yeah.
The past 2 years, I mean, he gets Denzel Mims last year. I know he didn't do much, his rookie year, but he's a receiver. He's going to take time. I thought that was a quality pick. Getting Becton, you get that franchise left tackle in place. It's hard because the Jets have been just so down, in recent years that he took over a terrible situation. But I think he's slowly doing a good job of building it back up. It's our first rookie head coach we get to talk about in the division. So, I think they finally nailed it with Robert Saleh. I think, he's very well respected around the league. I think I think it's a quality hire for the first time, in a long time there. So that's the biggest part of the offseason other than the quarterback there, right? If you nail the coach, you got half of it down. So I think they did a fantastic job getting him in. I have more confidence in him than any rookie head coach there is that's starting this year. So I'm high on Douglas. I'm high on Saleh. I like their draft again. Even Zach Wilson, you can't deny how talented he is. I think it's a big jump to ask a kid to go from BYU to New York City or New Jersey. I'm sorry.
But it is the New York market, though. It is the New York market.
York fans, Bills, Jets fans have a thing. So
no. I get it. I get that they are the New Jersey Jets, but I'm just saying it is the New York market at least.
It is, the fans are unruly. The media is relentless. We'll see if the kid can handle it. I think the talent's there. You got 1 year of production, but so did Josh Allen. Everybody's trying to replicate that situation, I think. Especially the guy in the division that gets to see him twice a year. And I think there are some similarities you can draw there. I like Vera Tucker. I don't like what they gave up for him. I think he's probably the safest offensive line pick there was this year, other than Sewell. I think he's a plug-and-play starter, but, they moved up, I think, maybe 8 or 9 spots, gave up 2 third-round picks. Just a lot for an offensive guard. But he's a good player. My favorite pick they had was Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore, their second-round pick, they took him right there at the top. I think Emmanuel Sanders, when I see Moore, maybe even with a higher upside than Sanders. And, Sanders put together some great seasons. We talked about him earlier, but under Manning had 1,500-1,500-yard seasons. But I'm a big fan of Elijah Moore. They took a couple wild cards, Hamza Nasruddin in the 4th round, a big safety out of Florida. I like him a lot. He's a big nickel linebacker, safety type, and just kind of a do-it-all guy. Had some injury concerns, but has got a lot of talent. They didn't really break the bank. We just talked about the Patriots. They didn't really break the bank. They didn't do the Jetsy thing and go out and sign the guy for $75-80 million. They kind of, refrained a little bit. They did sign a couple guys, for some decent money. The Carl Lawsons, the Corey Davises. They gave those guys a nice chunk of change, but it wasn't irresponsible. I just didn't feel like it was the same irresponsible, Jet offseason, trying to throw money around, getting the Le'Veon Bells and the this and that. I think they got a good foundation, and I think they're building this thing the right way. Sheldon Rankins they brought back. I mean, they're doing it the right way. It seems like finally in New York. And long term, as a Bills fan, they're the team that I'm worried about the most. And I'm talking 2-3 years down the road, and that might be a hot take, but I like who they have running the show now. I think they've done a solid job bringing in quality talent. They have big time question marks this year. I don't think they're going to be a ton better. I think they'll be. It's hard to be worse than 2-14, but I don't think they're going to all of a sudden be a playoff team. I think you're talking 5-6 wins, somewhere in that ballpark. They have zero corner depth. There's not one starting caliber corner on that roster right now. I do like Bryce Hall, but you're talking about a 5th, 6th round pick from a year ago. But I have big time questions about that part of their team. But I just feel like they're starting to build a foundation there, and it's all about whether they get enough time at this point, because I think they have the right guys in charge.
No, 100%.
Yeah, for that I'm going to give them. Ooh, where are we at here? Ooh. I'm going to give them a trust. I'm going to give them. I thought it was a good off season. I don't think it was spectacular, but I think getting that quarterback at number 2, hopefully a guy they can build it around. I think they've done a solid job building this thing up.
No, honestly, mostly agree with basically everything you said. I find it funny that you like Joe Douglas because Joel does not like Joe Douglas. But I'm willing to give him some more chances. I get why Joel doesn't like him because it seems like he's kind of ran people out of New York, which isn't good. But it does seem like
Not just people. He's run good
I'm
people.
sorry.
Not just people. He's run good people out of New York.
Yes.
I mean, but who are you talking about? Jamal Adams? I mean,
I love Jamal Adams, and he just butchered that situation.
Well, to be fair, to get 2 first-round picks for a safety.
It was good value, but I would rather have Jamal Adams than those firsts, frankly.
I mean, but yeah, we still have to see what they do with the first. Hey, sorry about that, guys. A little technical issues. We got everybody back now. But yeah, we were talking about the GM.
Joe Douglas.
Thank you, Joe Douglas. I'm terrible with names. Joe Douglas. I'm not that sus of him. I want to give him more than 2 years. Granted, like if he doesn't do good this next year, or if they don't do well this next year, then maybe they need to start looking to move on from him because he has run some people out. But I'll let Joe talk about all that because he has all of that in his head. I do not. But other than that, I do actually still really like the Jets offseason. I do like them getting Zach Wilson. I mean, I personally would have preferred them to get Justin Fields, but I understood Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson fits their scheme better. I think it fits the Jets better in general versus Justin Fields. Now, the hiring of Robert Saleh was, in my opinion, the crowning jewel of the Jets offseason. I absolutely loved Robert Saleh, and like I said before about the Texans not talking to Brian DeBall, what the hell? Why did you talk to Robert Saleh? Like, in my opinion, the Texans needed a defensive-minded coach, not an offensive-minded coach, because that offense was already good. Like, there was already pieces there for it to be good. You needed a defensive-minded. Now, I wouldn't have been mad about Brian DeBall or Eric Bieniemy. Don't get me wrong, but Robert Saleh, like he's hands down, like you said, Don, he's hands down my favorite of the new coaches. I think he does have the highest ceiling out of all of the new coaches, And I think they are going to do a very good job with Robert Saleh. I do really believe he's going to instill a culture there. He's going to instill a winning mindset, a let's take on these guys kind of mindset, like what Zach Wilson has. The headband of anytime, any place, any. It was 3 years.
Anytime, any team, any place.
Yeah, anytime, any team, any place. Yeah, like that's just such a good mindset to have, and honestly, like I I I really appreciate that from somebody who is so young in Zach Wilson to have like that mindset, and Robert Saleh is going to be pushing that mindset onto the entire team, which, like you said, in 2-3 years they could be real dangerous. Which is why I am actually going to give it a trust as well. Mine is leaning kind of towards shrug, just because, like, while I do want to give Joe Douglas another year, I mean, if he isn't anything less than stellar next offseason, then you might want to, like, if even another person goes away, just one more starter leaves because of Joe Douglas, like I think that's when you kind of need to start really looking at it. But that's me. Like I said, I have on trust, leaning on shrug, but I will let Joel take over the Joe Douglas talk because I know he's itching.
But before I launch into Joe Douglas, I'll just talk about their stuff in general. So they started off by cutting Henry Anderson, and then tagging Marcus May. The Marcus May situation is what really began my sus of Joe Douglas, because not long afterwards, Marcus May's agent has now come out and talked extensively about how low he thinks of Joe Douglas, and his agent is pretty reputable, and he thinks Joe Douglas is a bum, and he's not offering Marcus May a fair deal because Marcus May is a stellar player,
Very good.
and you don't usually see agents come out and bash the GMs that they're negotiating with. I've never seen that before. He also pissed off Jamal Adams, botched that whole situation. Robbie Anderson has talked extensively about how he disliked the front office and Joe Douglas, and that's why he left last offseason, because he didn't like Joe Douglas getting hired as GM. And he said that he disrespected him in contract negotiations. So that's 3 quality guys that he's pissed off that should have been cornerstones of the team. And I don't know how that could, like, who's the next one? Who's the next one that he's going to make upset? Is it Mekhi Becton? Who's it going to be? And the Jets have a history of sending players away, when you go back to Leonard Williams and all these guys. So Joe Douglas has been around for a little bit. Was it him the whole time? I don't know. But I do like the signing of Corey Davis. Love Corey Davis as a player, and they gave him a pretty good deal. Also bringing in Keelan Cole was a good move. Keelan Cole is an excellent gadget player. And then obviously Elijah Moore. So they rebuilt that entire wide receiver core, which makes Robbie Anderson leaving hurt a lot less, obviously, because him leaving was very visible last season. Then bringing in Dan Feeney to help bolster the offensive line was a good move. Sheldon Rankins, Vinny Curry will enormously boost their defensive line production. And then Tevin Coleman was a good discount signing because they didn't really get much out of the running backs last year. It was like probably the most boring running game I've ever watched from the Jets last year. It was HB dive, HB dive, HB dive. They got nothing. So now they've got some actual talent in there with Tevin Coleman, and then in the 3rd round they drafted Michael Carter. They also brought in a decent steal, I think, with LaMarcus Joyner. LaMarcus Joyner was excellent back with the Rams. And then Raiders signed a massive contract, like Gruden is prone to handing out. But we're not talking about Gruden. And he failed because of injuries. He played like 6 snaps for them or something ridiculous and made, a whole crap ton of money out of him. So the Jets get him for almost nothing. And he has tremendously high upside. So that's a good signing. They also brought in Gerard Davis from the Lions. Gerard Davis is a quality middle linebacker. Only gave him $5 million on a 1-year deal. He's a true centerpiece of a defense. Robert Saleh will be able to do a lot with him. And then bringing in Carl Lawson was one of their other big signings. I like the signing. Carl Lawson's a good player. I think the Bengals should have retained him instead of bringing in Trey Hendrickson like they did. So good on the Jets for pulling that off. So overall, I like what Joe Douglas did with the offseason. I mean, their only real loss they had this offseason was Terrell Basham leaving, and that's replaceable. Uh, and then obviously the move of trading Sam Darnold and picking your guy to build on. This is a new front office, new head coach with Robert Saleh, which was obviously a good hiring. So you pick your guy. I like Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold also could have been a franchise QB, maybe similar to what Zach Wilson's going to be. But they got good value back for him with their second and fourth that they got from the Panthers for him. And then picking Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's a winner. I It's going to be a big adjustment for him, obviously from BYU, like you were talking about. But I think he can do it. I think when I watch him, I see winner in his eyes. It's written all over his face. He loves the game, even if maybe his arm talent or whatever is not the same as some of these other guys. He's got the attitude of a winner. I keep saying that. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like what
he
Joe
definitely has
Namath
that
had.
intangible. Like you can't
Yeah.
just teach that.
No,
That
yeah, he immediately.
Oh, sorry, what, Don?
that matters a lot out of the quarterback. I mean,
Yeah.
if when you have that winning mentality and you're willing to put your body on the line for your teammates, your guys step up to that, especially as a young quarterback. You know,
Yeah.
they're go out there and work with you, work for you.
Yeah, all the players in the Jets organization are already talking highly of Zach Wilson.
Oh
He will
yeah.
be a captain on day one. He's already the leader of that franchise. He's walking into it with gusto. I mean, right now, I'm in comparison for him mentally. I would say Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's a lot like that for the Browns, and he can be a similar player for them. Maybe he doesn't have to be the be all end all talent wise for quarterback, but if he can just go in there and win some games, that changes New York. The New York Jets have been downtrodden since Joe Namath. They've had nothing. They had that 3 year spurt with Mark Sanchez where they thought they were going to be something, and then that went away like that, flash in the pan. Uh, but then unlike you, I do like to trade up for Elijah Vera Tucker.
Oh.
I think he can also play tackle, and I actually think he projects better there, but maybe he's a guard, doesn't matter. Opposite Mekhi Becton as right tackle. I think that's going to be excellent for them. Plugging in Dan Feeney too. Their whole offensive line is fixed with that wonderful wide receiver core. Bringing in Elijah Moore, who is one of my favorite receivers in this draft. Absolutely loved that pick. There's no way he should have been sitting on the board in the second round.
Nope.
And then in the third round, they picked Michael Carter. I criticized Michael Carter prior to the draft, but I never once said he wasn't a first, second round prospect. Like he was up there in that upper echelon, and being able to snag him in the third round and bolster your running back room, excellent move. And then stealing Hamsah Nasruddin in the sixth round, that was incredible. He was a second, third round guy, even with the injury concerns.
Yep.
He plays linebacker and safety equally well. I mean, you have obviously the age-old criticism. Where's your home? Which position are you going to play? I more like the flexibility. I see like maybe he can be a Tyrann Mathieu because that was Tyrann Mathieu's criticism and why he fell, and people still haven't learned the lesson.
No, yeah,
So
I mean, so many teams. I mean, look at the Ravens. They pride themselves on having these like switch hitter kind of guys, like these guys that can do multiple things on the field, and it works.
Not only that, but to have a guy like that can, if he develops, he can neutralize a tight end. And with all these guys
yes,
in the league, your Wallers, your Kelseys, you need a guy now that can come in and help cover those guys because corners are too small and linebackers aren't fast enough. But when you got a 6'3", 225 safety linebacker hybrid, you have a little bit more of an opportunity to match up with those guys. So I was big on the Bills with Dean. I wanted him really bad. I thought it was an excellent pick. I mean, it had to have been the injuries that made him go down to the sixth round, that or the coaching at FSU. I think all the FSU players that were drafted this year will be better pros than they were college players. It's been a disaster of a college football program for the past few years. So I think
100%.
all those guys will be better. And Dean maybe at the top of the list. I mean, that guy's got a ton of talent. I looked at him quite a bit prior to the draft, and I really like that pick for the Jets, especially that late.
Oh yeah, no, we both looked at him as well. I thought he was easily a day two talent, easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for me, I would have put it in Alpha Truz. Like that's how high I was on the general offseason, if not for Joe Douglas running the organization. I have to knock it down to Truz because of how he's handling Marcus May. It's the same old problem. I see no changes, and I'm afraid with this beautiful thing that they've built, he's just going to chase them all out, and then we're going to see the Jets being one of the worst teams in the league again in 3 or 4 years. It could go either way. They could go the way that you're saying, where they all of a sudden are contending with the Bills again. They really do have that potential. But equally, on the flip side, I think he is capable of blowing them up.
Well, my thing, I can kind of excuse the Adams thing because I just don't think he fit their timeline. And maybe you're more so talking about just burning the bridge and burning the relationship. Yeah. But having a strong safety that could bring you back. I mean, let's be real, it's not like a super valuable position, right? And if have them bring back 2 second-round picks when you're not planning on contending for 2, 3, 4 years anyways, I just felt like, and paying a guy like that kind of money with where they were as a franchise, it just didn't line up. But you make a good point about not burning the bridge because, I mean, that trickles down to all the players in the locker room.
Yes.
When it comes their time to get paid, it's like, is this guy going to burn me? And maybe that's what's going on with May right now. I mean, I like May a lot. He was the captain of their defense. Soon as Adams walked out the door, he's at this stage in their rebuild. He should be a guy they want to keep around.
Yeah,
not a guy they want to walk out. So we'll see what happens with that. I was more so referring to the way he sets up his drafts. I just think that he gets good value with his picks. They line up a lot with my boards and people that I trust boards. I do a lot of I follow the Draft Network a lot. They're very sequential with the Jets boards and those boards. But I think he nailed this draft, and that's why I personally gave him the praise that I did. And I liked his draft last year as well, at least prior to the season.
No, 100%, and that's why I am also a little higher on him than Joel is. Again, I get obviously don't want to burn the bridges, and which is why I said if he burns one more bridge, get him the hell out, because it does trickle down to the locker room, and you're trying to build something here. You can't build something on animosity.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love his great. He's a great drafter. That's what he is. But that's only half the battle as a GM.
Yeah.
The other half is player relations and contract negotiations, and he seems to be blowing every single one. Yeah. Frankly. So.
No,
we'll see with him.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say 100% agree, but what did you say, Don?
Well, you look at the top team in the division, the Bills, and obviously I know, and they've built their organization on trust with the players and have built family atmosphere and having culture. And we can have the culture talk all day long. It matters. It matters in these pro sports leagues. I don't care what anybody says. And you have to build that trust and that culture in the locker room. And when you have a general manager that's burning bridges with players, it makes things extremely difficult. And maybe it's going that route with New York. I don't have the inside info on that. I don't know. But for their sake, I hope not. They're building. It looks like they're building something good there. They might be a few years away, like we stated, but like I said, I think that trust between front office and player is a lot bigger than what people make it out to be. And that's pretty much it. That was my take.
No, yeah, I 1000% agree with that. Like, I couldn't agree more. Like, yes, look at all of the really good teams in the NFL. All of the upper echelon teams. All of them have a good locker room culture. Every single one. Like, when there's dysfunction, it shows on the field.
Yep.
And you can't have that. But that will be our episode for this week. Thank you so much, Don, for coming on. We really appreciate it, and you gave us some really good insight. I really like hearing opinions of people who are fans of these teams in these divisions. Because obviously when you follow a team, you're going to follow the rivals with the team, and you're going to know a lot more about those situations. And I really appreciate you coming on, man. But I mean, like, next week we're gonna be heading down south. We're gonna be talking about the NFC South first. I mean, Yeah, well, that will be a an interesting one to talk about.
That'll,
Um, but yeah, again, thank you again, Don, and thank you everyone who watched. Leave your comments. We always love hearing from you guys. Leave us a comment. Hit us up on Twitter. We will be putting Don's Twitter info in the description as well. Go hit him up as well. He's got some really great insights on Twitter. Good stuff from this guy. Uh, and also all of that good YouTube algorithm stuff, the liking and the subscribing, all that good stuff. But until next week, I am Lee,
And I'm Joel.
and our guest was Don, and we are Two Nerds Sportscast, and we are peacing out.